The Visual Arts, what you need to know. This video will give you a global understanding of what you should know about the elementary level visual arts program in the province of Quebec. It will also help you sound really smart when you find yourself discussing a work of art. Here's a diagram illustrating what you should know by the end of each cycle. Cycle 1 in the left column, grades 1 and 2. Cycle 2, grade 3 and 4. And on the right, cycle 3, which is grade 5 and 6. So basically, by the end of each cycle, you should master what is listed under that cycle. Take a look at this diagram. We will take a close look at shapes, lines, colors, and value. Well, that's not all. After, we will briefly look at volume, spatial organization, and spatial representation. So by the end of cycle 1, which is grade 2, you should know the difference between rounded and angular shapes, thick and thin lines, and the primary colors. By the end of cycle 2, which is the end of grade 4, you should remember everything you've learned since grade 1 and know the difference between horizontal, vertical, short and long lines and the secondary colors. Finally, by the end of elementary school, you should basically know everything you see in this movie. Let's begin with value, since it's there for all of you to know. It is simply the difference between dark and light pigments. The pigment of these colors are light or pale. And here, the value is dark. Light, dark. By the end of cycle 1, you will know all about rounded shapes, you see? Or the contrary, angular shapes. Let's take a look at this illustration. A bicycle. Well, would you say it has primarily rounded shapes or angular shapes? I ask because it has both. Take a look at this here. You can see the highlighted in green, the angular shapes, and now, oh, look at that. It certainly has a lot more rounded shapes in it, so I would say it's primarily rounded. Let's take a look at lines now. Cycle 1, this is for you. Now you have thick and thin lines. The top one here is a thick and the bottom one is thin. They're pretty simple, huh? Can you see the thin lines and the thick lines in this image of a house? Look at it carefully. In cycle 2, you should know horizontal lines and vertical lines, short lines and long lines. Here, the red one is a long line and happens to be horizontal. The green one is vertical and the blue one is short. Cycle 3, your turn. We add a curved line. We got straight lines, oblique, the one in yellow, and broken circular lines. All right, now let's take a look at colors. In cycle 1, you know your primary colors: primary yellow, magenta red, and cyan blue. Now note that the red is not like a fire truck red, but that's because fire truck red already has a little bit of orange mixed in it. Now, you'll learn that in cycle 2 when you study secondary colors. You see, when you're painting in cycle 2, you mix two primary colors together to get one secondary color: orange, green, and violet. In cycle 3, you'll learn to distinguish between warm colors and cold colors. The rows of color on the top are cold colors. The bottom ones are warm. Well, now you should all know about volume. It's essentially understanding the difference between two-dimensional art, like a drawing on a piece of paper or a painting on a canvas, like on the left there, and three-dimensional art, like a sculpture. Next on our very busy agenda is spatial organization of a work of art. In cycle 1, we study enumeration, which is laying out different graphics on a page without having them touch. Juxtaposition, laying out different graphics on a page by having them touch. Repetition, turning the graphics into a repetitive pattern. And we have alternance, when we speak of, well, in this case here, different forms repeat themselves in turn. We have alternance by values, alternance by colors, alternance by numbers, alternance by dimension, and alternance by position, just to name a few. In cycle 2, superimposition, which is a lot like juxtaposition. The difference, the graphics overlap one another. Next, we have symmetry. This is where one half of the work is exactly like the other half. If we trace a vertical line down the center of that bug, we can see that the right side and the left side are identical. The human body is generally also symmetrical. Even buildings and houses. Now, the most perfect symmetry I've ever seen is inside a kaleidoscope. It is so perfect. You can put a vertical line down the middle, get the same on the right side and left side. You could also put a horizontal line across the center and get the same on the top and the bottom. Perfect symmetry. Asymmetry means not the same on the right or left or top or bottom, like this house over here. If I put a vertical line down the middle, you can tell that left side and right side are not mirror images of one another. How about this one, Habitat 67, just off of the old port in Montreal. Finally, we have spatial representation. Perspective is about seeing something from a point of view or an angle. In Cycle 2, perspective is distinguishable by overlapping. Here we have number 38. You see it? You could see that the number 8 is bigger and is overlapping the 3, which gives you the impression that it is closer to you. Now, it's all about perspective. If you were on the other side of the screen, you would see this. From this point of view, the 3 is closer to you. Speaking overlapping, remember these guys? Violet is overlapping the other 2, therefore closer to you. Well, finally, in Cycle 3, we have a perspective with a vanishing point. When you look at the building from the right side, you see this. Or from the left side, this is what it looks like. Thank you, and have a good day.